I know what it's like to hold your breath while your phone lights up with a name you trusted, then realize you don't recognize the number it's coming from. I know what it's like to be watched. But I never told him my middle name. So, how did it end up on that loan application? Before I share what happened next, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're listening from. I met Jeremy on Hinge. He had soft eyes, some rough stubble in his profile photos, and this endearing, nerdy way of describing his job as solving problems with code and caffeine. I liked that. He messaged me first, something about how my favorite book, The Glass Castle, was on his high school band list. It made me laugh. I was 35, single, and a little too good at justifying why I hadn't tried dating again. After my divorce 3 years earlier, I filled my life with work, my dog, my niece's school plays, and podcasts about people who'd made worse decisions than I had. But Jeremy? He was different. We started texting daily. Voice notes, Spotify links, memes. You know the kind. Within a week, we were on our first date. Ramen on a Thursday night downtown. He offered to drive me home, but I declined. Still cautious. Still me. By the third date, I let him in. Not all the way, just little things. My job in nonprofit admin. My student loans. How I was finally saving again. He never judged. That was his power. It was eerie how well we aligned. Same favorite breakfast sandwich. Both night owls. We even used the same brand of spreadsheet app for budgeting, Monarch. One night, I was rambling about how my savings account finally hit $12,000 after years of living paycheck to paycheck. I remember the way he nodded, so attentively. He wasn't asking me how I'd done it, he was just listening. Quiet. Still. Too still. He never once asked for money. That's important to say. He played the long game. He said things like, I'd never touch your finances. That's sacred to me. You deserve someone who protects your peace, not your bank info. The first time he came to my apartment, he brought me a plant. A pot hose. Low maintenance. Creeping. I didn't think about the metaphor until much later. He noticed things. I mean, really noticed. My favorite candle scent. The way I tilt my head when I'm tired. The fact that I always used incognito mode when checking my bank account. I laughed when he pointed that out. You think the NSA is watching your credit score? He teased. He had a way of joking that made me feel seen. But sometimes I wondered how he knew those things. Then little things started happening. I got a verification text from Amazon for a device I didn't recognize. It said, your sign-in from Seattle is almost complete. I live in Philadelphia. I thought it was a glitch. I changed my password. A few days later, I noticed a missed call on my work phone from a number with no caller ID. When I redialed, it said the number wasn't in service. Still, nothing felt criminal. Just off. Jeremy told me he had a sister who passed away. He said he was the one who handled all her final bills, even her digital estate. I remember the phrase, digital estate. It stuck with me. He said he learned the hard way how important it is to leave someone you trust as a beneficiary on your accounts. That the right person can protect your identity when you're gone. He looked me in the eyes and said, I never let anyone take something from you. Not while I'm around. I didn't cry. I believed him. But one night, after he left my place, I checked my voicemail. A message had been left at 3:17 a.m. Silence. Then the sound of someone breathing. Slow. Controlled. Like they wanted me to know they were there. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I just started looking closer. I searched his name online, but it led nowhere. No LinkedIn, no family obituaries, no high school photos. But I found a Reddit account under his screen name. He had posted 2 years ago on a thread about digital forensics, asking how to remove metadata from scanned documents. Another post a year later. How to make a synthetic utility bill look authentic for a design mockup? He said it was for a UX project. But why did the comments mention Photoshop layers, and why did the post get deleted the next day? That was the first time my stomach flipped. The first time I stopped seeing him as someone I might trust. And then I got an alert from Credit Karma. A hard inquiry had been made in my name for a personal loan application. I hadn't applied for anything, and the middle name listed was correct. But I'd never shared it. Not online. Not in conversation. Not even on my social media. Except once. In a scanned PDF of my old lease agreement I'd emailed to myself last year, stored in my Gmail archive. Private. Untouched. Supposedly. When I saw the loan application in my name, something shifted. Not in a dramatic movie way. More like a quiet unraveling. Like realizing the floorboards you've been walking on are hollow. I sat there staring at the Credit Karma alert, my mouth dry. The lender was some fast approval site I'd never heard of, and the inquiry was marked as pending verification. I checked my bank account. No money missing.
No transactions.
But that didn't reassure me. In fact, it made it worse. Because it meant whoever did this wasn't finished yet. The next morning, Jeremy texted. Thinking of you. How's work today? I typed out 3 different replies. None of them felt right. So I said nothing. I started combing through everything, my email filters, my saved files, even the trash folder in my drive. That's when I noticed an autosave doc titled June_ent_adjusted_final PDF. It wasn't mine. The file had my name on it. My old landlord's logo. But the layout was off. And the signature at the bottom looked identical to mine. Only I'd never signed it. It was like someone scanned my old lease and used it as a stencil. Worse, the file's last opened date was just 4 days ago. I live alone. The only other person who'd been in my apartment recently was Jeremy. I remembered he asked to use my laptop once to look up directions. It was quick. 10 minutes, maybe less. I opened my browser history from that day. Nothing. But the cookies showed something different. Sites I don't visit. Ones I'd never click. Reverse image search tools. Template sites for digital IDs. An obscure notary form generator. The tabs were long closed, but the trail was there. Someone had used my laptop. Someone who knew where to look and how to hide the evidence. I didn't cry. Not even when the banker asked if I was reporting fraud against a known individual. I paused. Said, I'm not sure yet. But I froze when they pulled up recent login locations. One IP address was listed as Pennsylvania, trusted device. Another, from a week earlier, said New York, new device. I hadn't been to New York in 6 months. I asked if it was possible someone had added a new device to my account without triggering two-factor. The banker hesitated, then said, sometimes if it's logged in from a device already trusted, it won't flag. And just like that, it clicked. Jeremy had used my laptop. And from that, maybe he'd added his own device. Quietly. Without needing my phone. Without raising suspicion. That weekend, he texted again. I miss your voice. Brunch next Sunday? I didn't reply. Instead, I sent him a single message. What's your middle name? He responded within minutes. Haha, why? I didn't answer. He called twice. I declined both. Then I did something I shouldn't have. I checked his Venmo history. He'd left it public before, probably by mistake. I scrolled back and found something from 3 weeks earlier. Payment to a woman named Maddie K. With the note. For the doc edits. Thanks again. She wasn't someone I knew. So I looked her up. Her LinkedIn said she was a digital operations consultant. And under skills, document replication, PDF structuring, metadata removal. My stomach dropped. That Monday, I came home to something strange. A handwritten postcard slipped under my door. No return address. Just a vague sketch of a city skyline and 4 words. Check who you trust. It wasn't in his handwriting. But I recognized the pen. It was one of mine from the jar on my desk. I checked. The cap was gone. I stood in my apartment, heart hammering, and realized someone had been inside. No lock broken. Nothing stolen. Just a message left behind. I started researching. Not just Jeremy, but this whole type of behavior. There were entire Reddit threads, niche Facebook groups, even podcasts about people who'd been emotionally manipulated, digitally tracked, and financially targeted. The term kept coming up. Intimacy phishing. Where someone uses emotional closeness to gain trust and access. Not just to accounts, but to your behavior. Your rhythm. Your digital habits. Your weak spots. Jeremy wasn't after my money, at least not directly. He was after my identity. because identity meant access, and access could be sold. I called the woman, Maddie K., found her number through a business listing linked to her consulting. I told her my name, said I was trying to verify something about a project she might have worked on.
She paused.
Then said, "If this is about the lease forgery, I already spoke to someone from the compliance board." My blood turned cold. She went on. "He said it was for a UX prototype. Said the data was fictional. But the name on the file? It was yours." I asked her to forward the email.
She did.
The subject line read, June_ent_adjusted_finaled, a PDF for demo. Use only an internal mockup. The sender's name? It wasn't Jeremy. But the Gmail alias included a version of his full name plus my last name. He'd created a fake married couple alias to make our relationship look real on paper. It sounds insane. I know. But I remembered he once let it slip that his mom worked in elder care in Florida. I found her through a Facebook connection. I didn't accuse. I just asked, "Has Jeremy ever mentioned me? I think I need help." She paused, then quietly said, "You're not the first woman who's reached out." Then she hung up. After I spoke to his mom, Jeremy vanished.
No texts.
No calls. No red receipts. His dating profile was gone. Even the Venmo history had been scrubbed. It was like he'd erased himself from my life, but left just enough behind to haunt it. I kept thinking back to the weirdest thing he ever said. You can learn more from someone's Wi-Fi name than from their resume. At the time, I laughed.
But now?
It made me want to change the locks, the router, and maybe my name. There was one thing I hadn't checked. A year earlier, I bought a cheap off-brand smart plug that connected to an app. I used it for my coffee maker. I liked waking up to the smell of it brewing. I'd forgotten about the app. It wasn't even on my new phone. But I re-downloaded it. And when I logged in, I saw this. Last activity, coffee plug turned on, 3:42 a.m., remote access. I wasn't home. I was at my sister's that night. The plug was activated remotely, which meant whoever accessed it still had the login, and maybe more. I changed the password. Then I changed every password I had. I took my laptop to a local tech shop. Not Geek Squad. A little place run by a guy named Rob, who looked like he lived inside a server room. He ran a scan and found 3 orphans. Tiny encrypted files saved deep inside system folders. Not malware. Just there. One was named Q1 Survey Export. Final XLSX. Rob opened it. Inside were rows of names, dates of birth, phone numbers, and social security numbers. Mine was highlighted. Rob looked up. "You sure this laptop's only yours?" I nodded. My voice felt stuck in my throat. He added, "This kind of file usually comes from a data scrape. Like someone's building a packet. A profile for fraud." Asked if he could trace where it came from. He shook his head and said, "Whoever dropped this in knew what they were doing." That same week, I got an email from a company I'd applied to months earlier. A small grant-writing org in Chicago. Only I hadn't followed up. I'd never even interviewed. The email said, "Excited to move you forward. Here's the onboarding packet. Please upload your driver's license for our files." I almost clicked. Almost. But I hovered over the sender's email. HR_team@chicagoworks-onboarding.co. A fake domain. Just one letter off the real company's site. The link led to a site that looked perfect. The logo. The layout. Even a CEO's welcome message. But it wasn't real. The whole page had been cloned. And the document upload field? It asked for both sides of your ID, a selfie, and your social security number. I filed an identity theft report with the FTC. I called Equifax, froze my credit, flagged everything. The woman on the phone at the fraud line asked me gently, "Was this someone you knew personally?" I said yes. She paused and said, "Most of these cases are faceless. But when they're not, they're harder to prove. No forced entry. No stolen cards. Just digital access and trust." I told her I had no hard proof. No photos of him using my laptop.
No surveillance.
Just an erased trail and a gut full of dread. Then I remembered something. My upstairs neighbor had a Ring camera. It faced the shared front door, the only entry to our building. I asked if I could check it. She let me. We scrolled back 3 weeks. And there he was. Jeremy. At 2:58 a.m. Wearing a black hoodie.
No back. No keys.
No visible reason to be there. He didn't knock. Didn't buzz. He just stood there. Then the door opened. From inside.
My door.
He'd already been in the building. He looked up, directly into the camera lens for half a second, then walked out calmly. It wasn't just the loan app or the forged lease. It was my voice, somehow showing up on an unknown Google Voice number. A clip from a voice memo I once sent him, spliced into an AI voicemail greeting. It was a new Instagram account that used my old college photos, my real hometown, but a slightly altered name, tagging people I hadn't seen in years. It was a booking made in my name at a Motel 6 4 hours away. The receipt emailed to my junk folder. None of it big enough to scream crime on its own. But together, it was like a ghost version of me was walking around online, doing things I'd never done. I tried logging into one of my old online bank accounts, one I hadn't touched in years. It asked me to verify answers to my security questions. What was the name of your first dog? What's your mother's maiden name? All answers were wrong. They'd been changed. Except one. Where did you meet your spouse? I never had a spouse. I typed in, ramen shop. Access granted. That's when I realized. He'd already been inside my past. Inside the bones of my identity. And he'd rewritten it to include him. I reached back out to Maddie, the document editor. Asked if she had a copy of the brief he sent her.
She did.
She forwarded it. The metadata on the PDF said, created by J. Carter, modified by A. Reynolds. My last name. He'd merged our names on legal documents, married us on paper, built an entire side life using pieces of mine. And I still don't know what he was planning next. A passport? A loan? A property title? All I know is he didn't just date me. He collected me. I woke up one morning and stared at my coffee maker. It didn't turn on, because I hadn't reconnected the smart plug. And somehow, that tiny act of not plugging something back and felt like reclaiming space. Like I had started pulling pieces of my life back from him. I wasn't sure what I could do. I wasn't law enforcement. I wasn't tech-savvy. I was just someone who'd been infiltrated. But I was organized. And I'd learned how to document things. So that morning, I opened a new folder on my desktop. I labeled it JC Evidence. Over the next 3 weeks, I built a timeline. The lease forgery, time-stamped metadata, screenshots of email headers, copies of my real signature, the bogus job email, fake domain tracing, cross-referencing the real company's HR policies, Ring footage, exported and saved. I even added a note about the hoodie he wore. The file on my laptop, hashed, encrypted, and uploaded to a secure drive. Rob, the tech guy, agreed to write a summary of what he found. I filed a second FTC report, attached my folder, and labeled each item like it was evidence for a trial. Because, in a way, it was. I never got Jeremy arrested. That's not how these stories usually go. But I did contact 3 other women who'd posted anonymously in a private Facebook group I joined. Women who'd all met a man with a similar profile, under different names. Together, we connected the dots. One of them had lost her tax refund after giving him access to a shared budgeting app. Another had noticed someone using her address to forward packages. The third? She found out he'd used her info to apply for a travel rewards card. All of us had let him in slowly. All of us had thought we were too careful for this to happen. We weren't dumb. We were targeted. And now, we were watching. The last woman, her name was Rachel, discovered he was applying to remote jobs using pieces of our resumes. Same GPA from college. Same charity name I once volunteered at. Same writing sample Rachel had published in grad school. We tracked down a recruiter he'd spoken to. We didn't accuse. We just forwarded a document titled, Unverifiable Identity Report. A known digital impersonator. We didn't sign it, but we made sure it was opened. A week later, she told us he didn't get the job. I wish I could say I'm over it. That I trust people the same way. That I plug in smart devices again, without double-checking who has access. But healing doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives in fragments. Like the first time I checked my bank app and didn't flinch. Or when I rejoined a dating app, not because I wanted to date, but because I wanted the algorithm to forget him. Or when I updated all my security questions to answers that had nothing to do with my real life. Example: my mother's maiden name is now Spaghetti. It's not about paranoia. It's about boundaries. Here's what no one tells you. The worst part isn't the money. It's the humiliation. The internal whisper that says, "How could you not see this coming?" It's realizing someone didn't just want your passwords. They wanted you. Your voice. Your story. Your footprint. And that's why I told mine here. Because I'd rather someone hear this and tighten their digital fences than keep pretending these things only happen to careless people. They don't. They happen to those of us who lead with warmth, who believe the soft voice over the gut feeling, who tell someone about our favorite candle and don't think twice about it. 3 months after it all ended, I got a message request on Instagram from a username I didn't recognize. The profile was blank. Just a single DM. Still drinking cold brew on Mondays? I didn't respond. I reported the account. Blocked it. Then I opened a blank note on my phone and wrote myself a reminder. He watched you once. You're watching now.